Chapter 7 of Bhishma Parva, Duryodhana's Despair. The fourth day of the war dawned. Bhishma was determined to do his best and destroy half the army of the enemies. Drona and the king, with several others, had accompanied him to the front of the army. Bhishma first advanced towards Arjuna. From a distance, Arjuna saw him coming and met him halfway. Drona and his followers met the oncoming chariot of Arjuna. Abhimanyu went to meet this team. He fought with Drona, Kripa, Shalya, Vivamsati, Somadatta and the king. There was no difference between Abhimanyu and his father. He was wonderful with his bow and arrow. People were amazed to see so much prowess in so young a person. Bhishma left him and went in search of Arjuna. The combat was worth watching. In the meantime, Abhimanyu was assaulted by a new set of men. Ashwathama, Bhurishravas, Shalya, Chitrasena, and the son of Sala. Arjuna saw from a distance the fighting of his son and cheered him from there. Drishtadyumna saw the unequal fight between Abhimanyu and the others. He came to the help of the young man. The Trigartas came to Arjuna. Shusharma and his son were fighting. Drishtadyumna joined Arjuna and the fight went on. The Trigartas were joined by Kripa, Kritavarma and Shalya. The son of Sala came to join the fight. Drishtadyumna was very angry at this onslaught. He fought ferociously. The son of Sala and Shalya were fighting very well, but the commander of the Pandava army was too strong for them. With his powerful mace, he split the head of Sala's son. There was great commotion in the army at the sight of this killing. Sala was furious with Drishtadyumna. He leaped at him and fought for all he was worth. Now Shalya joined the fight. A wonderful duel was fought between Shalya and Drishtadyumna. Abhimanyu came to the help of their commander. Now came several brothers of the king. Bhima was watching. He saw that the warriors were unequally matched. He rushed to the spot. Duryodhana also had come to the front. Bhima was very happy to see so many of the sons of Dhritarashtra. Nakula and Sahadeva were there too. The fight went on for a long time. Duryodhana fought as one inspired. Looking at Duryodhana, Bhima thought that he would kill him and raised his mace. The brothers of the king were terrified at the sight of Bhima. Duryodhana sent the king of the Magadhas to harass Bhima with his army. The sons of Draupadi joined in the fight. The king of Magadhas advanced towards Abhimanyu with his huge elephant. Abhimanyu killed the elephant. Bhima was just dancing on the field like a lion in the midst of elephants. The elephant army of the Magadha was being destroyed at a fast pace by Bhima. He was surrounded by the immense bodies of the elephants and the many warriors. He was looking like Shankara dancing his death dance in the burning ground. A powerful portion of the army was sent by Duryodhana to defy Bhima, who was not in the least affected by the size of the army. Bhima stood like Mount Meru, surrounded by masses of rain clouds. Drishtadyumna was assisting Bhima. The sons of Draupadi and Shikhandi were there. Suddenly, Bhima found himself facing Bhishma. He went on fighting, but Satyaki was concerned about him and rushed to his help. A Rakshasa named Alambusa joined the warring princes. He was a good friend of Duryodhana, but Satyaki defied him effortlessly. Bhima's anger was now at its height. He raised his mace and rushed towards the sons of Dhritarashtra. He rushed on them like a wolf on herd of cows. With a sharp hit he killed one brother of Duryodhana. He spoke to himself, 99 more. He killed some more of them, one after the other. 8 of the brothers of Duryodhana were killed within a few moments. Bhishma saw the havoc caused by Bhima. He said, Bhima's anger has reached its height. Something must be done before he kills more of them. He sent the great Bhagadatta. Bhagadatta, with his great elephant, came towards Bhima and began to fight with him. It was a magnificent elephant. It attacked all the heroes. The earth trembled under its tread. Seated on the immense elephant, the king of the city of Jotsa, hurled a terrible javelin at Bhima. Bhima fainted at the impact of the javelin on his immense chest. It was like a shaft of lightning. Ghatotkacha saw that his father had fainted. He rushed at once to the spot. He used his Maya tactics to fight with the enemy. He rode on an elephant and marched against Bhagadatta. It was not possible for Bhagadatta to cope up with Ghatotkacha. Bhishma saw the condition of Bhagadatta. He spoke to Drona and Duryodhana. Bhagadatta seems to be finding it difficult to withstand the son of Bhima. Ghatotkacha is an easily excitable person. His anger has been aroused because his father was made to faint. He is a Rakshasa, and as for our Bhagadatta, his temper is phenomenal. It is not right to let them continue to fight. Let us proceed to their neighborhood. Bhima had joined the fight now. Father and son will be terrible to oppose. The army there will be destroyed completely. Let us hasten to the rescue of Bhagadatta. Hearing these words of concern spoken by the commander, many warriors rushed to the spot where Bhima and Ghatotkacha were holding the ground. Several of the heroes on the side of the Pandavas went to the help of Bhima and his son. The impact of the two armies was dreadful. It was a noise which threatened to rend the sky. Ghatotkacha was in excellent form. He was literally wiping out the enemy army. Bhishma spoke once again. He said, I do not think it is advisable to fight with the son of Bhima now. He has now got many supporters too. Not Indra, nor even the Rudras will be able to oppose him at this stage. Our army has gone to be saved from his fury. The sun is about to set. My horses are extremely tired and I am tired too. Let us stop the fight now. Now that it is evening, the strength of Ghatotkacha will increase at an alarming rate. We will withdraw our army. We will fight tomorrow. The Kaurava army was withdrawn according to the wishes of the commander. The Pandavas saw the army of the Kauravas had retired earlier than usual. They knew that it was the fear of Ghatotkacha that made them retire like that. They were very happy at the way things had progressed that day. Blowing their conches and trumpets, they retired to their camps. Ghatotkacha was embraced with affection by Yudhishthira. It was clear that he was the hero of the day. The Kauravas retired to their camp. Everyone was tired. Each man slept the sleep of exhaustion, but not Duryodhana. He sat alone in his tent. With his head resting on his palm, he sat for hours. Tears were flowing unrestrained from his red eyes. He had lost his brothers, 8 of them. His sorrow was great. It looked as though Bhima would keep his promise and kill all his unfortunate brothers. He thought of the picture of the coming of the death of Dushasana. It had been painted vividly by Krishna and Bhima. His frame shuddered to think of it. But he brushed away the thought and stood up. He told himself that he was not going to allow it. He would stop it somehow. Listlessly, he prepared himself to rest. To rest but not sleep. He was too upset to sleep. Suddenly he got up from the bed. He walked to the tent of his grandfather. He sat by his side and said, Grandfather, I am unhappy. 8 of my brothers have been killed by Bhima. You, Drona, Ashwatthama, Kripa, Kritavarma, Bhurishravas, Bhagadatta and Vikarna were all there. Could you not have prevented the death of my brothers? Each one of you is able to defy the gods in war. Why then could you not do this for me? The strength of the Pandavas is something I cannot understand. How is it that they are able to stand against you all? How are they able to win every day? Please tell me that. Bhishma smiled gently. He said, "My child, Duryodhana, this is what I have been trying to tell you all these days. Even now I am telling you. Make it up with Yudhishthira. Live with the rest of your brothers. Do not let this terrible war continue. I have been trying to tell you that it is not possible to defeat the Pandavas. You want to know by what power they are able to withstand me and Drona? I will tell you. They have Krishna with them. That is the reason why they are invincible. Krishna is the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, and he has been born in the world for the destruction of the evil. The greatest of the great walks the earth of ordinary men by the name Krishna. The Pandavas are men who have not swerved from the path of Dharma even by a hair's breadth. Krishna has therefore become their friend. He has taken upon himself the task of saving the five Pandavas, and with his help they are destroying evil in the world. This earth will have a bloodletting of all the proud, arrogant kings, and will be the purer for it. The Pandavas are invincible. Please do not entertain the slightest doubt about it. So long as Krishna is with them, no one would hurt them. I ask you to consider their strength once again. Stop this war. 4 days of fighting have shown you how it is all going to end. Duryodhana listened to the words of his grandfather. He got up and walked away quietly to his tent with his head downcast. Bhishma sat for a long time. He was feeling sorry for this grandson of his. But he knew that Duryodhana would win or die. He was the last person to think of any compromise, especially in the middle of the fight. He was jealous of his reputation. He could not bear to be called a cowherd. He would walk to his death even if he were convinced that he should not have fought with the Pandavas. With a tearful sigh, the old man lay down. He could not sleep either. His mind was crowded with many thoughts. He saw again in his mind the beautiful way in which Arjuna fought with him. He then thought of the valor of Abhimanyu, the child. A tender smile lit up the face of Bhishma. He saw again Krishna with the chakra in his hand. It would have been so wonderful if he had killed him. He would have got his release earlier than he thought. But that could not be. His mother Satyavati had told him that he had no right to die until the Kuru house had been established firmly on the ancient throne of the Pauravas. That meant that he had to leave and see the death of everyone. Until Yudhishthira was installed as the monarch of the Paurava throne, he had no right to die. He had to leave. With another sigh, Bhishma turned over in his bed as if to turn his back on all thoughts worrying him. He decided to do his best to hasten the end of the world. Everyone had to die. He had to watch the death of everyone. The thoughts of Ganga came to his mind. He felt a child again. He thought of the days when she would sit by his side, telling him stories until he went to sleep. Bhishma thought of his days of childhood, and sleep came to his tired eyes. He slept a long, dreamless sleep. Good night. Shubharatri. Krishnarpanamastha. Chapter 8 of Bhishma Parva. The 5th and 6th days. The 5th day of the war dawned. The sun had just appeared as a red rim over the edge of the eastern horizon. Bhishma began to arrange his army in the Makara Vyuha. Arjuna, Drishtadyumna, and Yudhishthira thought that their army should be in the form of a hawk. Bhima was the beak of the bird. Shikandi and Drishtadyumna were the eyes of the hawk. The head was Satyaki, and Arjuna was the neck of the bird. The left wing was formed by Drupada and Virata, and the right was formed by the Kekeya brothers. The back of the bird was formed by Abhimanyu and the sons of Draupadi. The tail was the eldest Pandava Yudhishthira, accompanied by Nakula and Sahadeva. Bhima entered the great tortoise-shaped army of the Kauravas. Bhima met Bhishma at the outset. Bhishma had begun his destruction already. Arjuna hurried to his presence. Only he could counteract the divine astras of Bhishma. Duryodhana went to Drona. He thought of the death of his brothers the previous day. He said, "You are my well-wisher. I am depending on you and my grandfather to help me. You are able to defy the gods in fight. After all, the power of the Pandavas is far inferior to yours." Drona sighed with anger. He said, "You are foolish to expect the defeat of the Pandavas. Even now you cannot realize that they are invincible. We will try our best to do our duty. More than that is not possible." Drona did not wait to hear the reply of Duryodhana. He rode towards the army of the Pandavas. Satyaki was there to meet his onslaught. It was a glorious duel which was fought between the two. Bhima came to help Satyaki. The team was getting strengthened on either side. Drona, Bhishma and Shalya were now facing Bhima, Satyaki, Abhimanyu and the sons of Drupada. The fight now threatened to become a duel between Shikhandi and Bhishma. Drona remembered the words of Duryodhana at the beginning of the war, that all of them should protect Bhishma from Shikhandi. He therefore challenged the Shikhandi. Already, Bhishma had turned away from the presence of Shikhandi since he was a woman reborn as a man. All the Pandavas now harassed the old man. The team was led by Arjuna. Bhishma was eager to save the sons of Dhritarashtra from the wrath of Bhima. Hence he fought with him himself. Their day had now reached its middle. The sun burned down on them from the zenith. The war had taken its toll of thousands of warriors. The battlefield was slippery with the mire of blood and the dead bodies of men and horses and elephants. Arjuna rushed at Bhishma. Hearing the music of the conches of Krishna and Arjuna, the army was struck with terror. All the heroes on the side of Duryodhana rallied round the banner of Bhishma. There was a great fight between the two armies. Virata hurt Bhishma with sharp arrows. The great man turned his angry eyes on Virata and fought back furiously. The powerful Ashwatthama fought with Arjuna. It was thrilling to see the fight between the two favorites of Drona. One was the son and the other was almost a son. So dear was Arjuna to the Acharya. Arjuna praised the prowess of Ashwatthama, and during the fight he managed to go elsewhere. He did not enjoy this fight with the son of his guru. He saw Duryodhana fighting with Bhima. He passed them. Bhima had hurt Duryodhana with his sharp arrows. But the king fought on, not minding the pain in the chest. Abhimanyu was cutting away the army as a sickle cuts a field ripe with corn. He was killing them by thousands and hundreds. No one could stop the advance of the young lion. Lakshmana, the son of Duryodhana, defied him for a while, but he was wounded by Abhimanyu and Kripa carried him away from the field. Satyaki was in excellent form. Everyone could see that he was a student of Arjuna. The same lightness of touch was there. The same quickness was found. Everyone was watching the grace with which Satyaki fought. Satyaki fought a grand duel with his old enemy Bhurishravas. The fight went on for a long time. They fought like infuriated lions. Bhima was looking on from a distance. When he thought that the fight had made both of them tired, he came and took Satyaki in his own chariot. The duel between Bhishma and Arjuna still went on. It was not possible for either to make the other retreat. The sun had set. Bhishma saw that the faces of all the men were pale and haggard. It was a very tiring day. He withdrew from the field with his men. The coming of the night was welcome to all the men. They were exhausted physically and mentally. Arjuna was very unhappy because he had to fight with his grandfather. He hated to wound his Acharya with his arrows. How he hated the war, and Duryodhana was the cause of it. The sixth day of the war dawned. The Pandavas had arranged their army in the Makara formation. The counter vyuha of the Kauravas was the Krauncha. The war began as intensely as on the previous day. The first encounter was between Bhima and Drona. Bhima first killed a charioteer of Drona. Drona took the reins in his own hands and continued to fight. He began to destroy the Pandava army. Bhishma and Drona were intent to only one thing, the destruction of the army. They could not make up their minds to kill any of the Pandavas. They fought with them, but they would not try and hurt them fatally. Bhima was returning their attack. The army of Duryodhana was suffering terrible loss because of the prowess of Arjuna and Abhimanyu and the sons of Draupadi on one side and Bhima, Drishtadyumna and Satyaki on the other. Arjuna was supported by Nakula and Sahadeva. The brothers of Duryodhana tried to arrest the progress of Bhima. They could do nothing. As soon as Bhima entered the Vyuha, the people cried, "Here comes the terrible Bhima. Let us take leave of our lives. We are going to be killed any moment now." Bhima was first going in his chariot. He felt that the progress of the chariot was not fast enough. He jumped from it and took up his mace in his hand. He entered the army like a storm cloud entering a clear sky. Destruction followed in his wake. Drishtadyumna wanted to help Bhima. He entered the field and there he saw Vishoka, the charioteer of Bhima, sitting desolately in the empty chariot. He could not see Bhima. He feared the worst. He asked Vishoka, "Where is Bhima? He is dearer to me than my very life. Where is he?" Vishoka told him about the decision of Bhima to enter the army with a mace in his hand. Drishtadyumna was worried about his friend and the rashness with which he had gone into the heart of the army. He hurried to his help. He spoke to himself, "There is no use in my living if anything happens to Bhima. He must not die. If I return to the camp without Bhima, how can I face the others? I would rather spend all my days in hell than live without Bhima. He is my friend. The powerful Bhima is my guru and I am his devotee. I must hurry to the place where Bhima is and help him if he is alive. If he is dead, then I will kill the man who has killed him, and then I will die. I will not return to the camp without Bhima." With these thoughts in his mind, Drishtadyumna went into the heart of the enemy army. The path of Bhima could be seen by the bodies of the dead, which had been felled just then. Blood had not stopped flowing from the wounds of the dead. Drishtadyumna saw his hero in action. Like a gale uprooting trees, he was playing havoc there. Bhima saw his friend. The two enjoyed themselves wading through the river of blood which they had caused to flow. Duryodhana saw that Drishtadyumna had joined Bhima. He said, "The awful son of Drupada has now joined Bhima. They will now destroy everything if we do not do some quick thinking." He sent some of his brothers to oppose the two. In the meantime, Drona and Drupada had met in a single combat. Drupada was not powerful enough to defy the great Drona. Drona was returning from the combat. Drishtadyumna had just then sent an astra called Pramohana, which had the power of making everyone lose consciousness. Drona saw the brothers of Duryodhana caught in the spell of the astra. He sent the counter astra and woke them up. They began to fight again with Bhima and Drishtadyumna. Abhimanyu was sent with a big army to help Bhima and Drishtadyumna. There were others who accompanied Abhimanyu, and they all entered the enemy army. They formed a new vyuha called Suchi Mukha, meaning the point of a needle, and advanced to the neighborhood of Bhima. Drishtadyumna turned his attention to Drona. His chariot was made useless by Drona. He had killed his horses. He jumped into the chariot of Abhimanyu and continued the fight. Bhima came back off his chariot and continued to fight with the brothers of the king. They fought for a long time, but finally they had to retreat. Abhimanyu and Vikarna fought a duel which was wonderful to watch. Each was as strong as the other. No one could decide who was the better fighter. Duryodhana and Bhima met once again. Bhima decided to kill Duryodhana. So intense was his hatred that he would not stop, even when help came to Duryodhana. The fight went on for some time. At last, not being able to withstand the fury of Bhima, Duryodhana fainted away. Jayadratha carried him away in his chariot. Kripa helped Jayadratha to take away the king from the field of the battle. Bhima fought with Jayadratha. Several men came to the help of both, and the fight became general once again. Evening came on slowly. The sun had set. The armies were withdrawn. Yudhishthira's camp resounded with the cheers of everyone. Bhima and Drishtadyumna were the heroes of the day. Everyone was happy to know that the destruction in the Kaurava army was because of these two. The 6th day's war was over. Excepting the first day, the camp of the Pandavas was resounding with the music of conches and trumpets and drums every day, announcing their joy. As usual, Duryodhana went to the tent of his grandfather and spoke about the grief in his heart. He said, "The Pandavas are happy. They have destroyed such a large portion of my army. Bhima managed to enter our impenetrable Vyuha even at the early part of the day. He and Drishtadyumna have caused so much damage that I am feeling desperate. You must destroy the Pandavas at once. They must be killed. I will not have peace otherwise." Bhishma said, "It is not right that you should speak thus. I have been doing my best to please you. I am trying to win this war for you. When their army is destroyed, they will be defeated. But there are great heroes on the side of the Pandavas. It is not easy to stop them from killing our soldiers. I am gambling with my life and I am fighting. I have nothing left to live for. I might as well die in my attempt to please you. I will fight with the Pandavas to the best of my ability. No one can do more than that. As for killing them, it is not possible for anyone to do it. You cannot ask me to do it. I told you even at the beginning of the war that I will not kill the Pandavas. They are as dear to me as you are. But be assured that I will try my best to defeat them. Go, my child, go and sleep. You have been hurt very much by the arrows of Bhima. Here is a potion. Drink it. It will relieve you of your pain." Bhishma gave him potion and sent him to bed tenderly. Shubharatri. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Chapter 9 of Bhishma Parva. Shikandi's vain attempts. The 7th day of the war dawned. Bhishma arranged his army in the Mandala Vyuha. It was a circular formation. It was difficult to penetrate. Yudhishthira asked Arjuna to arrange their army in the Vajra Vyuha. It was almost as impregnable as that of the Kauravas. The encounter began. Drona attacked Virata and Drupada. Ashwatthama attacked Shikhandi. Duryodhana met Drishtadyumna. Nakula and Sahadeva opposed their uncle Shalya. Vinda and Anuvinda fought with Arjuna. Bhima was opposing Kritavarma. Abhimanyu was facing Chitrasena, Vikarna and Dushashana. Bhagadatta was facing Ghatodgaja. Satyaki fought with Alambusa, the Rakshasa. Bhurishravas met Drishtaketu and Yudhishthira was facing Shrutayus. Chakitana was facing Kripa. Today's war promised to be a series of duels. Arjuna looked at the army and spoke in an angry voice to Krishna. "Look at the skill of Bhishma. Look how he has arranged his army. He thinks that we will not be able to enter it without a great loss to us. There are the Trigartas waiting for a fight with me. I am going to destroy them today." Arjuna twanged the string of the Gandiva. He began to rain arrows on the Trigartas and all the kings who had assembled to defy him. The army was being shaken out of the formation. Arjuna dispatched the Astra by name Aindra. It began to rain arrows on the opponents. It caused panic in the enemy ranks. The phalanx was broke up in a matter of moments. The army rushed to Bhishma for succor. Bhishma was the raft that would save them from being drowned. Shusharma, the king of the Trigartas, had to beat a hasty retreat. Bhishma hastened towards Arjuna. Duryodhana was very upset to see the prowess of Arjuna and the way he had broken up the phalanx. He came quickly to Shusharma, who was to have guarded the Vyuha. He said, "My grandfather is going to fight with Arjuna. It is up to you all to support him. Please protect him from the enemies." The king hurried to the neighborhood of Bhishma. The old man suddenly attacked Arjuna. With his silver chariot and the white horses yoked to it, the grand old man presented a fine picture as he drove towards Arjuna. The fight was terrible. Never before had they fought as they fought today. There was no fight at all in any other part of the field. Everyone was bent on watching this duel, which looked as though it would never end. It was not possible to look at the terrible form of Bhishma. Surrounded by the Trigartas and the brothers of the king, he was formidable. Duryodhana was behind him. The others now began their fights. Drona fought with Virata. His bow was broken by Virata. His banner was cut too. His charioteer was the next victim. Drona killed the charioteer of Virata. Virata ascended the chariot of his son Shanka, and two of them fought with Drona. They fought beautifully. The great Drona was furious with them. He sent a terrible arrow against Shanka. The arrow pierced the armor of young man and fell on the ground red with the blood of the young prince. Shanka's bow fell from his lifeless fingers and his body fell out of the chariot. Virata saw his son dead. This was the third child of his to die. He was very angry with Drona, but he was helpless against his power. He left the chariot and went away from the battlefield with his head downcast. Everyone was sorrow for Virata, but it was all part of one's luck. War meant death. Death of one's nearest and dearest. Drona continued his work of destruction. The duel between Ashwathama and Shikandi was still going on. Shikandi hurt his opponent with 3 arrows which lodged on his forehead. Angry because of the extreme pain, Ashwathama killed the charioteer of Shikandi and his horses too. With a sword in his hand, Shikandi whirled it about his head and fought with Ashwathama. He looked like a hawk wheeling about his prey. It was a terrifying sight. Ashwathama sent a number of arrows at him. Shikandi warded off all the arrows with his sword. He flung the sword at Ashwathama and jumped into the chariot of Satyaki. Satyaki fought with Alambhusa. Alambhusa tried his Maya tactic. He was considered to be invincible. But he was no match for Satyaki. He rained arrows from the sky on Satyaki. But Satyaki sent Aindra Astra, which destroyed the Maya of the Rakshasa. Arrows flowed from the Astra like drops of rains, and Alambhusa could not face this. He fled away from Satyaki's presence. Drishtadyumna fought with Duryodhana. The king fought very valiantly. He tried the onslaught of Drishtadyumna with contempt. He was made to lose his chariot by Drishtadyumna. Duryodhana fought on foot. Shakuni came to his help. He gave his chariot to the king. After a while, Duryodhana was defeated by Drishtadyumna. Satyaki concentrated on the destruction of the army. Kritavarma faced Bhima. Bhima killed his horses and he made his banner fall down. Kritavarma felt as though his body had been broken up into fragments. He had to get into the chariot of Shakuni and withdraw from the fight. Bhima had now time to do his favorite task, the destruction of the elephant army. The Kaurava army was doing its best to withstand the attack of the Pandavas. But it was not possible. Their valor was just insignificant beside that of the opponents. The water of the Ganga is sweet, but the sweetness is lost when the river loses itself in the sea. Even so, the valor of Kauravas was being swallowed up by the great valor of the Pandavas. No blame could be attached to the Kauravas. They fought like inspired beings. Only the other side was too powerful. It looked as though the Kauravas were bent on just one thing, the reaching of the heavens meant for those who die on the field of battle. The fight between Bhagadatta and Ghatotkacha was one of the highlights of the day. In a chariot glowing like the morning sun, Ghatotkacha approached the king of Pragadjotsi. Bhagadatta was seated on his wonderful elephant. He looked like Indra on his white elephant Airavata. The fighters were equally matched. Each hurt the other and each was treating the other with contempt. The smile did not leave the face of Bhagadatta when he received the intensely sharp arrows of Ghatotkacha. He killed the horses of his chariot. In anger, Ghatotkacha hurled a javelin at Bhagadatta, but it was caught and broken into three pieces. Ghatotkacha had to leave the field. He could not fight with his wonderful opponent. The elephant of Bhagadatta began to destroy the army of the Pandavas. Shalya fought with his nephews Nakula and Sahadeva. He was pleased with their valor. With a smile, he felled the banner of Nakula, and with an arrow, he killed his charioteer. The horses were the next to be killed. Nakula got into the chariot of Sahadeva. Together they fought against their uncle. Sahadeva was furious with his uncle. He threw a terrible javelin at him. It robbed Shalya of his senses, and he fell down in a faint. His chariot was led away from the field. It was midday. Yudhishthira sped in the direction of the warrior called Shrutayush. He began his attack with a big shower of arrows. Shrutayush returned the attack of Yudhishthira. One of his arrows broke the armor of Yudhishthira, but Yudhishthira treated it casually. He sent an arrow which cut the banner of Shrutayush and felled it to the ground. Yudhishthira looked like an angry cobra. The field was amazed at the expression on the face of the Pandava prince. They had always seen Yudhishthira as a gentle and pleasant person, and this aspect of him was terrible. They could not believe that he was capable of so much anger. The fight went on. Shrutayush sent an arrow which was aimed at the chest of Yudhishthira, who cut it into fragments. Yudhishthira killed the horses of Shrutayush. With his horses killed, Shrutayush was afraid to continue the fight. He ran away from the field. Yudhishthira went unchallenged into the army and began to destroy it. Kripa fared badly in his fight with Chakitana. He had to be carried out of the field by Shakuni. Three of the brothers of Duryodhana were harassing Abhimanyu, but Abhimanyu soon had them at his mercy. He could have killed them, but he remembered the oath of his uncle and so left them alive. Bhishma came to the rescue of the Kaurava princess. Bhishma came to the rescue of the Kaurava princess. He now faced Abhimanyu. Arjuna saw it. He said, Krishna, grandfather is going to have a tough time with our young lion. Take my chariot wherever you please. I am bent on destroying this army. Let us proceed. Arjuna passed through the ranks raining havoc. He was stopped by Shisharma. Arjuna said, Listen to me, Shisharma. I know that you are a great fighter. I also know that you are still nursing that ancient hatred against me. It began with the days of the Rajasuya. You have not forgiven me for defeating you then. Come, let me show your ancestors to you in a few moments. There was a fight. The Trigartas attacked Arjuna from all sides. The fight was long and fearful. Arjuna killed many of the supporters of Shisharma and proceeded towards the chariot of Bhishma. Shikandi and several others came to the help of Arjuna. Duryodhana and Jayadratha saw Arjuna proceeding towards Bhishma. A team came to protect Bhishma. The 5 Pandavas had reached the chariot of Bhishma. It was a grand sight. Bhishma faced all of them with a smiling face. His bow was raining arrows on all of them. but his face was raining smiles on these dear grandsons of his. It looked like rain falling while sunshine is warming the earth. Bhishma was proud of the valor of the sons of Pandu. Yudhishthira was standing undaunted when the arrows of Bhishma fell on him. Nakula and Sahadeva had come there after the retreat of Shalya. Bhima was of course there. The king Duryodhana and Jayadratha hurried to the spot. Kripa and Shalya with Sala, Chitrasena and others came to the help of the commander. The old man was in an excellent form. He tore the Pandavas to pieces. They had absolutely no chance against him. Yudhishthira was very angry with Bhishma. He looked at Shikandi and said, Shikandi, you have sworn to kill Bhishma. You must kill him soon. He is terrible as his name implies. The Pandava army cannot stand this much longer. You will have to hurry up. Shikandi hurried to the chariot of Bhishma, but Shalya intervened and challenged him. Bhishma was fighting furiously with Yudhishthira. Bhima was opposing Jayadratha. Both lost their horses and chariots. Both were fighting on foot. Bhima hit Jayadratha with his mace and made him run away from the field. Chitrasena fought with Bhima, only to faint in the duel, hit by the mace of Bhima. Bhishma seemed to concentrate on Yudhishthira today. He was continuing the fight which began some time back. Yudhishthira lost his chariot and used Nakula's chariot. The three brothers fought with Bhishma, but he was too strong for them. Other kings came to the help of the Pandavas. All their combined efforts were of no avail against Bhishma. He fought like one possessed. It was not possible to do anything to prevent the ruin in their army. Arjuna was busy fighting with the Trigartas. They were deliberately making him take up their challenge and taking him away from the neighborhood of Bhishma. Arjuna was able to destroy a major portion of the Trigarta army, but he had to see the devastation in his army and could do nothing to prevent it. The sun had set. The war had to be stopped. Each one returned to his tent. The Pandavas were successful in the individual duels, but the loss in the army was considerable. They were not so jubilant today as they were on the other days. Yudhishthira was very thoughtful. He had to do something about the old man. Whenever Shikandi went towards his chariot, Bhishma would turn his face away from him and fight with someone else. This was making Shikandi indignant, but he could do nothing about it. The promised duel with Bhishma seemed as though it would never be fought. Shikandi was the one person who could remember his previous birth. He thought of himself not as Shikandi but as Amba. The sight of Bhishma woke up the Amba in him. He wanted to release Bhishma from the human bondage which made him a confirmed bachelor. Death would release him from his oath. Amba wanted him to be free, but Bhishma could not understand the message of Amba. If only he would face him, then freedom would be his for the asking. Thoughts like these crowded the mind of Amba. She smiled to herself and said, "Tomorrow, I will see if I can kill him tomorrow." Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Krishnarpanamastu. Chapter 10 of Bhishma Parva, Gatotkaja's Vela. The 8th day of the war dawned. The Kaurava army was arranged in the Urmi Vyuha. Urmi is the ocean. Bhishma made the army to spread on either side like the waves of the sea. Yudhishthira asked Arjuna to arrange their army in the formation called Shringataka. It was in the form of horns. Both the Vyuhas were unusual. It was the speciality of Bhishma and Arjuna to vie with each other in this art. The hostilities began. The general fight was on. Among the individual duels, several were noteworthy. At the outset, there was a dreadful duel between Bhishma and Bhima. Bhima harassed his grandfather. He covered him with a cloak of arrows. He killed his horses and his charioteer. Duryodhana was alarmed at this. He proceeded to the spot with his brothers. Bhima was terrible today. He saw the brothers of Duryodhana. He decided that he would kill as many of them as he could. He killed 8 of them, one after another. Duryodhana was watching the slaughter and he could do nothing about it. Bhima's oath came back to his mind. He rushed up to Bhishma and poured out his grief. He said, "Look at Bhima. He has got to be killed. He has killed 8 more of my brothers. Try as they might, my soldiers are not able to stand up against him. They are all being destroyed. Your indifferent and partial attitude are responsible for all this. You are allowing this because you are not in the least affectionate towards me. I do not know what I am to do now." Bhishma said, "Your words, my child, are cruel. I am fond of you. If I had not loved you, I could have stayed away from this war, and so could your Guru Drona. You have been under the impression that the Pandavas will be easily killed, and I have been telling you again and again that it is not possible to kill the Pandavas. Duryodhana, you and your brothers are sure to be killed in this war by Bhima. There is no doubt about it. Whenever and wherever Bhima meets a son of Dhritarashtra, he will kill him at once. It has to happen that way. You cannot do anything about it. You tried to save your brothers. Could you do it? No. Bhima is terribly angry with you. I cannot prevent the revenge of Bhima. I can only say this: make up your mind to die. See that you die a brave death. From now on, concentrate on fighting and not on the things that are beyond the power of man." With these harsh words, Bhishma brought the conversation to an end. It was midday. The Pandavas were now attacking Bhishma in combined teams. But it was all to no purpose. No one could stand against him. Bhima was destroying the elephant army, and Nakula with Sahadeva was killing all the horses. There was a great loss in the army of the Kauravas. The Pandava army was equally unfortunate. Bhishma and Drona were bent on killing everyone. At the beginning of the war, Iravan, the son of Arjuna, and the Naga princess Ulupi came to the side of the Pandavas. He approached Arjuna and said, "My mother Ulupi has sent me to you. She asked me to help you in the war." Arjuna embraced his son and welcomed him. Iravan had been fighting all these days. Today he saw that Shakuni was doing a lot of mischief in the Pandava army. Iravan accosted Shakuni. He had brought his army with him. He was almost the equal of Arjuna in prowess. He looked like Abhimanyu in the way he handled his weapons. He hurt Shakuni very badly. Duryodhana was watching this fight. He went to Alambusa and told him, "Arjuna's son is harassing Shakuni. You must fight with him. You must use your Maya tactics and destroy him. He has become dangerous." Alambusa went and challenged Iravan. There was a terrible fight between the two. Iravan won the praise of the heroes on both the sides, but he could not for long withstand the Maya tactics of Alambusa. The Rakshasa cut his head off from his body. The Pandava army was being burnt up by Bhishma, Drona and Ashwatthama. There was no way of stopping their fury. The Pandavas said, "This is impossible. There is no use in fighting with them. There is no one who can defy this team." Seeing Iravan dead, Ghatotkacha sprang into action. Duryodhana had to suffer the Maya tactics of the Rakshasa. Ghatotkacha played with the Kaurava army as a cat plays with an army of rats. Everyone was terrified of him. Ghatotkacha's anger was all against Duryodhana. He would not leave him alone. He challenged him again and again. He fought with all the kings who came to help Duryodhana. Bhishma heard the noise in the army, which had become panicky because of Ghatotkacha. Bhishma said, "I am afraid Duryodhana will not be able to withstand the power of Bhima's son. But for the fact that Bhima was sworn to kill our Duryodhana, Ghatotkacha would have killed him long ago. Hearing his words, several of the warriors went to help Duryodhana. They were all there, Drona, Ashwatthama, Jayadratha and many others. Ghatotkacha was only more excited than ever on seeing this host. He welcomed all of them. He terrified everyone. He was shouting in his powerful voice. Yudhishthira heard his war cry. He called Bhima and said, Bhima, I hear the beautiful voice of my child Ghatotkacha. I saw several of the Kaurava heroes hurrying towards him. I am worried about his safety. I cannot send Arjuna there since he is busy defending the sons of Drupada against the wrath of Bhishma. I want you to go and help your son. The enemies may prove too strong for the strongest of our warriors. Go and join your son. Bhima hurried to the help of his son. Father and son now proved a formidable pair. They were impossible to defy. The army of Duryodhana was destroyed in no time. Duryodhana was mad with anger. He came to fight with Bhima. Several of the warriors on either side joined the father and son, and the fight became general once again. Ashwatthama took the place of Drona. He was helped by Duryodhana. They fought for a while, but when Bhima lifted up his mace and tried to kill Duryodhana, they fled from his presence. Like Bhishma on the side of the Kauravas, Bhima was invincible on the side of the Pandavas. His son was terrifying all the Kauravas with his valor. No one could see what was happening. No one could tackle him. Several of them had fainted away since they could not stand his powerful weapons. Almost all of them were running towards the camp. There was panic in the Kaurava army. The triumphant noise of the conches, blown by the Pandavas, showed that the army of Duryodhana had been completely routed by Ghatotkacha. Duryodhana went to his grandfather and told him about the happening so far. He wanted him to go and kill Ghatotkacha. Bhishma said, Listen to me, child. I cannot do anything now. I am busy here. I will send Bhagadatta to tackle young Ghatotkacha. Bhagadatta went on his famous elephant Supritika to fight Ghatotkacha. The Pandavas were ready to meet this great man. Bhima, Abhimanyu, Ghatotkacha, the sons of Draupadi and several others. Bhagadatta rushed towards Bhima first. All the heroes, all of them began to harass the coming elephant with their arrows and javelins and maces. But the course of the elephant was unimpeded. Its head was covered with blood. But still it was advancing. The entire army was held at bay by just one elephant. There now came the king of the Dasarnas. He brought his elephant to the combat. He was able to make the elephant of Bhagadatta stop in its course. The two elephants were standing, each blocking the path of the other. It was a wonderful sight. The elephant of Bhagadatta would not budge by the breadth of a hair even. Bhagadatta sent arrow after arrow against the king of the Dasarnas, who had to retreat. There was a loud cheer set up on the side of the Kauravas. The Pandavas joined up and began to harass Bhagadatta. In the meantime, Arjuna was doing good work wherever he went. He joined Bhima and Ghatotkacha. Duryodhana sent a big army to combat these heroes. There was another huge slaughter. Bhagadatta with his elephant was working havoc in the army of the Pandavas, and Ghatotkacha with Bhima and Arjuna was doing his bit. Arjuna had just heard about the death of his son Iravan. He was so unhappy because this war was the cause of the death of so many innocent people. Because of the obstinacy of Duryodhana, a young man who was the only hope of his mother had to die a pitiable death. It was also unnecessary. He spoke to Krishna. This is what my uncle Vidura predicted long ago. He said that there would be an end of the Kauravas and the Pandavas. That was why he tried to prevent this war. Krishna, look on these two armies. They were so huge just a week back. So many innocent people have been killed by the Kauravas and by us. It is better to die a beggar than to kill so many people for the sake of a throne. I hate this war, Krishna. I can see now why Yudhishthira was prepared to accept 5 villages. I then thought that it was beneath his dignity to ask a boon of our cousin. But now I realize what a noble motive prompted my brother to ask for peace even at the cost of his self-respect. All this is because of Shakuni, the evil mentor of Duryodhana. If only he had killed long before he could influence that cousin of ours. I am sorry I have been born a Kshatriya. I am murdering so many people for no fault of theirs. But this is not the time for to look back. Take my horses towards the army of the Kauravas. Let me do some more killing before the day is done. It is nearing evening. Bhishma met Arjuna once again. In the meantime, the fight between the Kauravas and the Bhima had not abated. Ghatotkacha was still there. Duryodhana sent some more of his brothers to join in the fight. He was also there. Bhagadatta was fighting gloriously with Ghatotkacha. His elephant Supritika was as grand as ever. It would not let the showers of arrows to upset it in any manner. Bhima met the sons of Dhritarashtra again in the battle. He began to destroy one by one. 8 more of them were killed. The army had to retreat. They lost all inclination to fight. Duryodhana was heartbroken. 24 of his brothers had been killed by Bhima. The battlefield was a very depressing sight to either army. It was literally strewn with the bodies of dead people. There was a gruesome spectacle of bodies without heads, heads without bodies, jeweled arms which had been cut off from bodies, arms with swords and arrows and bows and javelins still clasped in them. The bodies of the dead elephants and horses were all over the field. The sun had set. The terrible day was done. The 8th day of the great war had come to an end. The heroes returned to their camps. The losses on both the sides were heavy, but the Pandavas were gaining. Bhima and Ghatotkacha had worked ruin in the army of the Kauravas, not to speak of Arjuna and Abhimanyu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shubharatri. Krishnarpanamastu.